Hello, everybody. This is Tom Geyser with AI Savvy Small Biz, finally showing my face for those of you watching on video. For those of you on podcast, I will try to talk you through what's on the screen, or I'll give highlights of what I'm talking about so that you understand them as I go through the screen. Now, right now, I'm on the homepage of Lovable.dev. Now, the reason why I'm on this page is because I have built a few websites. I am not a coder. I'm not a programmer. I've never taken any classes in it. I don't know the language that everyone speaks with all of that. Um, Initially, I tried Lovable and bolt.new to sort of compare the two. They're both AI backed website builders. So basically you give the AI a prompt and it'll begin to build a website for you. In some cases, you can even show it another website and ask it to mimic that website. Now, I do think that bolt.new does that a little bit better than Lovable, but I'll get into some of the differences a little bit later. And the reason why I mainly chose Lovable as my number one contender to build websites, knowing no code, no programming, and all of that. So, right now we have, as I said, the homepage of Lovable. And as we scroll down on the video, you can see a few of the websites that I've already built. Let's just start with one called Fansorama. And basically, what this is it has not launched quite yet. Do I have to sign in? Let's see. I guess I have to, huh? Okay, so I'm going to sign in. And essentially, what it is it's a Twitter or X for sports fans. In this case, specifically those that play fantasy sports. And I built this, but I realized that the timing wouldn't be great because I built it in, well, in January, February. And really, fantasy sports are kind of on their downswing, even though basketball, hockey, and well, baseball hasn't quite started unless you count spring training. But really, the biggest fantasy sport there is, at least in the United States, is fantasy football. So I'm planning to relaunch this in a few months, maybe June or July, maybe early August, uh, for the fantasy football fan. Now, right now, the way that it's built, I don't have any advertisements. There isn't a lot of monetization in this. It's kind of Twitter in its early infancy, where people can just talk back and forth, bring up subject matters. There's all kinds of things they can talk about, the team they're supporting, what they can ask it questions, they can talk about, whether other people think their favorite team maybe is playing well, or, what sport do you like, or who should I trade for, or who should I start based on that information. Now, the one thing about it, and I talked about it just a little bit. When it comes to Lovable and Bolt, I will say I mentioned earlier that Bolt, might have done a better job at copying websites. You can basically mimic an entire website. It can't be word for word, design for design, but it can build something that's closely related to it. Lovable, from my experience, now this might be totally off, but I've built several websites that I ended up getting rid of. As a matter of fact, this Fansorama is probably on its third iteration. I literally deleted at least two other sites as I was building this because of my frustration. And I realize a lot of things, and those are the things that I want to share with all of you. But I do think that bolt.new does a better does better design. It's more updated looking, high technology look. Maybe I don't. I mean, this is relatively clean, but it's rather simplistic for what it is. Now, some of that was by choice. I'm not having any videos or images on this site as of right now. It's basically going to be text everything, and a way for people to hold conversations about football and the teams they root for and what other people think about trades, possible trades, who to start, all of that other kind of information. So there is that. Now I want to take you to another website here, if I can get to the page. Let's see, go to dashboard. Okay. Now here's a site that I recently launched. It's a directory for veterinarians. And basically what you do is you come in here and you type in your zip code, and it'll give you, if you scroll down, anything that's vet related. Now this first one here on the left is a vet pharmacy. Then we have other vets, animal hospitals, those kinds of things. It does have spaces for advertising. You can sign up to be part of the newsletter. There's a blog, all of that kind of information. You can obviously advertise, and the advertising are examples. And I asked the AI to build me um, to build ads, and I don't know that I'm sold on the look of these ads. They're a little cut off here on the bottom, as you can see. They don't fit the space quite right. And that's a little bit of a challenge that I found with using Lovable, that when it comes to the ads and some of the, prompts related to ads and sometimes even images, it doesn't always get the spacing correct. So that is an issue, and that's something to think about. But for the most part, it's clean. And this is one of the largest directories for vets there is. It's over 70,000 vets across the United States. Most directories are, 10, 20,000. This is comprehensive. This has probably almost every vet in the United States, which most directories wouldn't even get down to, the really small ones, the ones that have very few reviews, all of that. This has all of them because I built it myself, and I was able to include that rather than going to some, prefabbed template for directories that only allows you, 5 to 10 or 10 to 20, because the pricing goes up exponentially, or they don't even accommodate things over 10 or 20,000 listings. So that's why this is built the way it is. A few of the things that I have noticed while using Lovable, and let me just go through this. Number one, it has a really difficult time handling more than one command. When you come into the prompt is that black part over here, okay? When you go into the prompt and you type down here in the bottom your command, you can't give it more than one command at a time. If you wanted to, move one of these boxes right here for whatever reason, or let's say they want to, this house of Fido, they want to move it over to the, I want to move it over to the right side, and I want King JDVM to be promoted. Let's say that they've paid to be a sponsor of the directory, and we're going to swap these two around. You can't do that at the same time. And what I mean is, you might have to say, you know, put House of Fido where King JDVM is now, move King JDVM to where House of Fido was. That's one prompt. Then you have to start a second prompt, a new prompt, and say, make, um, keep or add King JDVM as a promoted vet. And then the promote it will come up, and I'll just show you what that looks like up here because I'm talking about it. Here's a place that, like, this is Kirkwood Animal Hospital is promoted. And maybe, for instance, I want, one of the prompts might be, take away the promote it because they're not paying anymore. Let's say, um, you know, let's say that this was their final month. Remove the promote it and rearrange in alphabetical order. Well, I would just say remove the promote it, and then a new prompt would be, put in alphabetical order. So that's one thing. It does sometimes forget things. Obviously, if you give it two prompts, two commands, three commands or more, it's going to forget one or two. Now, sometimes when you're rocking and rolling on this, you'll have a small command, small command, small command, and then all of a sudden you look at what you think has been done, and one of those will be skipped. Or what happens sometimes is you're giving it all these commands one at a time, which is what I'm talking about, but there's so many coming so quickly that they might revert. Like they may change it, and then you give it a second command, and you're going quickly, it might go back to the first, the way it was originally, and then put that second command in, missing that first command, if that makes sense. So there's three commands, let's say. You put one in, they do it. Then when it goes to make the second command, it might go to what was that original place on the website, or that original look, that original model of the website, thus skipping over or forgetting that first command. So just know that going in, that you really have to be patient with this. Do one at a time. Take your time. I've actually found, and I know that this is probably showing how crazy I am, but sometimes if I get really frustrated with it, if we're up against a bunch of errors, let's say, or things are not going exactly the way that I want it to go, I will shut down for the night and I'll turn it on, go back to it rather in the next day, the morning, whatever it might be. And it's almost like it's had time to think. Or what happens, I think, is when you're giving it all these commands, it's trying to figure everything out, trying to figure everything out. When you walk away from it for a while, it starts fresh and it has sort of a new perspective on what you're asking it to do. I know that sounds a little crazy, but that's my takeaway, because it almost always seems like when I stop, come back the next day, it understands things even better. I think it's trying to process all the information and learn from it, that it can't, it's getting in its own way, if you will. All right. Now, sometimes you get stuck on an error. You'll have the command, or you'll have a command. Let's say that we want to have Clark Animal Hospital. This is one that shouldn't happen, but let's say we want them to be promoted, and for whatever reason, it's not doing it, not doing it, not doing it. What you'll end up wanting to do is find the code. Okay. You'll want to see the code, and you can ask it, update project. Why does it say update project there? Anyway, I'm just going through this in real time. So, like I can ask it, how do I find the code in the prompt? Tell me how I can get to the code. You get the keys to go to the code. And then what you'll want to do is highlight, or, uh, yeah, you'll want to copy, and you'll want to paste into the prompt area, that black area down there, what the errors are. That way it can read what the errors are, and it can know exactly what it needs to fix. Now, it may still take a few more iterations, a few more times of copying and pasting those errors to get it right. But I have found that that gets you back on track and really solves a lot of the problems when you're up against an error that continues and continues and continues. All right. Sometimes I ask the AI in Lovable questions, can you do that? Did you do that? Did you move that? Did you find that? Can you make this correction? And it'll tell me whether or not it can, or if I have to start it. Sometimes with websites you have to go in and create some sort of file and things like that. Lovable uses Supabase and some other things, so you might have to go in and create your account. But once the account's set up, it's linked to it, and a lot of times the Lovable AI can go in and fix things, so that's always good. Also, the one thing I've asked before, like I set up SEO on a site, and I've asked, is there anything else that you can recommend for the SEO on my site? Is there anything you can recommend on elements of this website, services that can be provided, those kinds of things? Is there any other service that these sites provide that is not on our site? And it'll actually give you the answer. Now, as I spoke about earlier, the design on Lovable's not great, but if you want straightforward, I think in some ways it's relatively user friendly, more so. than anything else, and I like that about it. I mean, this is a pretty simplistic website, but you know exactly what to do. All right, like like you get it all right here. You get all the information. You know that these stars up here, reviews and things like that, and those are updated throughout all the time, which is important. Again, these ads that I had it design are not always the best ads, but everything's really straightforward, easy boxes, whatever you might want to call it. So that is the one good thing about it. Again, it does forget things at odd times. It might even forget a command that you've given it. So you'll want to always watch for that. Like if you've given it, individually, if you've given it like 5 commands, boom, 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 you want to sort of pause, go back into the website and see if it's actually done any of those things. Let's just go over here and see. Now we're going to go return to the home page. Houston, we have see, every once in a while you get weird things like this. Refresh page. All right. It gets stuck on itself. Now, there is a website that I'm working on. I'm not going to show it quite yet because I'm going to have to change a lot of things. But let's go back to Fanzarama. Pretty straightforward stuff. You come in here and you say the Cardinals beat the Pirates and Paul Skeens was pitching for Pitt. That's his third loss to the Cards. Okay, see, in here what I did, as opposed to Twitter, you pick the sport that it's in, so it groups it by the sport rather than a hashtag. You can do hashtags here, but I just have it so that you can look it up. You can go to MLB here over on the side. You can look at MLB and see everything that's been written about MLB. Why? Okay, there's some work. I have not looked at this website in a while, and it looks like that was not posted. So let me just refresh the page. I haven't done much on this page in a while. Yeah, it did not. So I'll have to go in and fix that. But you can go to MLB, and it'll show you everything that was in the MLB folder, for instance. My project is out of date, so I'll want to update the project. So that's probably what it is. I'm not really worried about that. I can fix that. Now, if you want your site to go live, the one thing that I found was that, for instance, you want the URL to be the same on what you've created in Lovable as the website. There are some challenges with that. You got to jump through some hoops. Now, my guess is when you have a development site from an old developer, in the olden days, if you will, that, these kinds of things would happen. But I had to jump through a lot of hoops to get my findapetdr.com, findapetdoctor.com. I had that domain, but when I was working on this in Lovable, it gave me a different name, which is fine. But to make it the same name, I had to jump through a lot of hoops. You had to go to Supabase and you had to create some, another account. Again, I'm not a coder or anything like that. So it was all very, 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 very new to me. But at this point, wasn't a problem. I was able to get through it. It took a little bit longer. It took a little bit of time. But if you write down some of the things that you need to do, it's not an issue. But if you're new to this and you're not used to the code and fixing these kinds of things, it can be very labor intensive, actually. Overall, I really like Lovable. I find it, I understand it. I understand how to use it much better. You do have to keep your projects updated. There's no doubt about that. But as you can see on the screen, but I really enjoy using it. If you stick to one command at a time, and you make sure that that goes through, that's been changed, that's been updated, you'll do very well. Now, if you're looking for top of the line looks and designs, You might have to watch a couple videos. You might, look and see what's available on Lovable. Maybe they know how to, amp up what you design. See, we're getting back to this. We're getting weird issues with Lovable. I mean, and that happened on both sites, Lovable and Bolt. Now, what I will say about Bolt was what I didn't like about Bolt, what I found to be the issue with Bolt was even when I had a single command at a time, Bolt didn't do a great job of understanding that language that I was using to make the change or to add that thing or delete that thing to my website. I would have to sometimes use another prompt to correct it. And it was what I would consider rather simple. It might be, swap out these two boxes. You have to put it like move the box that says this to where the box that says this is, and move the box that says this to where that box was, kind of thing. And it just would not get that right all the time. And if you know anything about Lovable or Bolt, you're really their currency is the number of prompts that you use. So every wasted prompt is like sort of wasting depending upon if you're paying or not or how much you're paying, but it's wasted money in a way because if you have a subscription and you're getting, I don't know, 200 lines, 200 prompts that you're able to use, and you've wasted 30 of them over some sort of project you're working on, well, you got to make it up somewhere else. And that was the one big reason why I stopped using Bolt because I found personally that Lovable, at least me, understood me a lot better than Bolt did. And I had less time explaining what I considered simple commands. So, in a nutshell, I would recommend Lovable. I know some people don't like it. I know some people worry about it that it's AI. I have found no issues with it. People all over the country can go to the website that I published, the findapetdr.com, findapetdoctor.com, and use it and look for things, and it's all available. So I'm not worried about that. I've had some people say, well, you need to, think about if this goes wrong or that goes wrong. Even when I have to make changes to a website that's live, I can go in and just give it the prompt and it'll be fixed. And if it's not fixed, then I look into it for a little bit more. And, if I have to copy and paste the code and fix the issue. So it really is, if you think of it as a developer, a web developer on your team, but just someone that you have to lead. Okay, so you have to like micromanage your web developer. That's sort of the way that I think about this. I have to micromanage the web developer. And sometimes when there's things outside of Lovable, I might have to take on the responsibility of fixing those things. But it's never a problem because I can just keep also asking the AI questions and I'll get steps on how to fix something. I'll get ideas as to what's wrong. I'll get additional steps to fix things. Like for instance, it might say, go to the Supabase, Supabass, I believe. Is it BASS? I think it is. And no, it's BASE. That's right. That's what it is. Yeah, what am I thinking? I see it all the time. And and then I'll ask it a question like, where do I find the settings button on Supabase? Or where do I find the correction link on Supabase? And it'll actually go through it and tell me where that is. Now, I will admit it's not always right. So you might end up having to Google it. I would say probably maybe 2 out of 7 times. I know that's a weird number to give, but I would say probably 2 out of 7 times I had to just Google things, because either the directions, the responses on the prompts, commands weren't clear or that, they were old sometimes. Sometimes these, the other companies, the other sites you might be working with update fairly quickly, so you don't have time for that. But Wanted to thank you very much. I like Lovable a lot. I hope you do too. And even if you don't, if you love Bolt more, or you don't want to use either one, and there's a new one out on the market, put it in the chat. Would love to discuss. Would love to look at it. Give some comments as well. Try it out. That's the one good thing. I believe Bolt and Lovable both have free versions. I pay for the Lovable version, but I do believe you get a few prompts and you can begin the process and really learn a lot from there. And even if you have to pay something, it's not a ton of money, it might be 10 or 20 bucks to use them for a month or something like that. So it's well worth it. Again, these are the differences that I've seen. I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, I'm not a programmer, I'm a communications. I was a PR and marketing guy for decades. So this has been very exciting for me, and I hope that you enjoy this video. And I will talk to you all soon enough. I'll be doing more of these rather than just having, some pictures with my voice like all like I've done recently. So thank you very much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all later.